Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of That Sounds Terrifying under the production and editing skills of Jessica Dakotas.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes. So if anyone is really super happy that we're continuing, we can thank Jessica Dakotas. And I called her Jessica again. And she can edit that out. And if anyone's really upset that we're continuing, you can thank Jessica Dakotas because she's taking over production editing for the time being, because
Yeah.
Nick's life has become crazy. And I'm very thankful that we were able to keep this show going.
hmm
So thank you, Jess.
Yeah.
Your audience thanks you as well, I'm sure.
I'm just really excited that we keep this going because I love it. I love talking about spooky things and I love talking to you every week.
Sweet.
It's I would be
Yeah.
really sad if we didn't have our conversations
Yeah.
for our friends
The
to listen
therapeutic.
to. It's like we're having just normal conversations that we would have anyways,
Yeah.
and then everybody gets to listen to them. So
Yeah. We make you listen to them. So,
um
but we had a really exciting thing happen, due to like our fans and everything. We had someone reach out to us and invited us to go and see a play at Jiva Theater, The Woman in Black. So we went and we wanted to talk a little bit about it because you definitely have to go if you love spooky, scary stuff, right?
Seriously, it was so fun. And I am admittedly, so I'm not a play person.
Hmm.
I love comedy and I love musicals.
Hmm.
Which people are always like, "Wait, you don't like plays?" I'm like, I don't like, I don't know. I don't find them like super exciting.
Yeah.
Um, so it wasn't really on my radar to go. Actually, Evan had asked me if I wanted to go, and I was like, nah, I don't really like plays. Um, but
We're
then we
so
got
glad that you
invited,
went,
and I was
though.
like, well, it is scary.
Yeah.
So, but this one was so engaging
Hmm.
and it was scary, but like in a good, like not
Yeah.
like a like, oh my God, I'm terrified forever, but it was like it was really good. I
Yeah.
really loved it.
The performers were amazing. Susan
Yes.
Hill, who's the writer, it's like based on a book, talked a lot in her work about, there's minimal staging. There's not a big set, but it's like building off of the imagination, which I love plays that are like that and
Yeah.
things like whereas you're, not into plays. I was in a lot of plays when I was
Right.
younger. So I grew up around the theater.
hmm
And so I really love things that have like minimal sets or, it really was like technically a two-person show,
Yeah.
even though there was like a third, entity, I guess, in there. Um, the story just really works because it's the audience that like sort of builds up the fear because you're just kind of like engaged and it builds up. It kind of reminds me a lot about, some of those old stories that, we have probably shared in the past on the show, like The Monkey's Paw and like some of that
Yeah.
Edgar Allan Poe kind of like feel, right?
Yeah, it did. It was funny too.
Yes.
Like the beginning I laughed a lot.
Hmm.
And then, it gets like just thrilling. It
Yeah.
was really fun and I would actually see it again.
Yeah.
I got home and I was like, I would definitely see that again.
Yeah.
It was beautifully done. Like you said, the actors were just so
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I loved it. If you are in the Rochester area and you can go see this. I think it's till February. What was the date till, Nick?
Oh, I can't remember, Jess.
Let
That,
me look.
yeah. It's going on for a couple weeks. So I think that um
It's till
is definitely something.
February.
Yeah.
I'm
You
gonna
know, it's
look it up.
Well, special thanks to while you're doing that, the Jiva Theater for inviting us out. It did not disappoint. We did share on social media a little bit about it. Um, and it's one of those stories, like I said, you're not just kind of watching it, you're involved because there is some sort of audience interaction, or at least they make you feel like you're being interacted with. Um, and I think that's also what kind of makes it like timeless too. It's an older play, and it still works because it kind of again it goes through imagination. It's not about technology or what's going on, in the present day, and it could very easily be, one of those plays that just keeps on going on and on. And, so
Yeah.
yeah.
It's on until, so today, as we record this, it is the 21st of
Hmm.
January. It is on until February 8th. That's a short run.
Yeah.
That's sad because it's
Yeah.
so good. I wish it was running longer.
We will
But
write them. We will write our people.
yeah, it is the West End's longest running ghost
Hmm.
story.
Hmm.
But very, very cool. And yeah, just go see it. It was neat. It's
Yeah.
so different, you know. And now that Christmas is over, I feel like it's time to get back to spooky anyways. So
Yeah. Actually, there was a tie back to Christmas in the play. Like that's how it kind of
oh yeah,
starts
there
out.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That is
So,
true.
but yeah, so I thought, just thought we'd talk very briefly about the play as you just heard. Urge you to go take a look in your area because it is one of those things that runs around the, different theaters and stuff.
It
So it might be
does.
showing in your area, but if it does come to your a theater near you,
Yeah, go see it.
definitely check it out. But Jess and I kind of put together a couple stories. Mine have to do a little bit like tied into this woman in black kind of theme. And so I definitely can go into my first story if you want to, Joss.
Go ahead.
Mine are short. So,
Yours are short. I have a really long, scary one.
okay. So this one is called The Man in Gray. I didn't know the story when it happened. That's the part that still gets me. I was attending a late evening performance at the theater Royal Drury Lane. I arrived early, so the house was only about half full. Ushers were still moving people around, checking tickets, and whispering directions. Normal pre-show stuff. I took my seat in the upper balcony and noticed a man sitting a few rows ahead of me. He stood out, but not in a dramatic way. He was dressed a little different. Not costume different, just a little time different. Gray coat, high collar. Everything muted, like the color had been drained from him. I remember thinking he must be part of the production, or some eccentric regular. The lights, they dimmed, the audience settled, and when the curtain rose, I leaned forward slightly, and that's when I noticed something was wrong. No one else was reacting to him. No shifting, no whispering comments, nothing. About halfway through the first act, I was drawn to him. During a quieter moment, I looked back. He hadn't moved. He wasn't clapping. He wasn't adjusting his seat. He was just watching, completely still. At intermission, the lights came up and I stood to stretch. I glanced to look at him again, and the seat was empty. Not he left during the applause empty, not he stepped out for a drink empty. The people on either side of them were still there, chatting like they'd been sitting together the whole time. I asked one of the men about the man who left early. They looked at me confused and said, no one was sitting there. I told an usher what I had seen, and she went quiet in a way that felt rehearsed, not surprised, not curious. She said, was he wearing gray? That was the first time I heard of the man in the gray. She told me audience members had been seeing him for generations, always in the balcony, always silent, always during performances. Some say he was a nobleman, some say he died in theaters centuries ago. No one agrees on who he was, but everyone agrees on one thing. He never appears when the theater is empty, only when the story is being told. Maybe theaters aren't haunted because of the people that died there. Maybe they're haunted because the people felt too much there. So that was my first little
That's,
story.
yeah, I like that. I mean, theaters have so much energy. And actually, remember, I'll tell our listeners,
Yeah.
while we were at the play, randomly, my husband ran into somebody that he literally grew up with.
Yeah.
And she's
That was
in
so weird.
Rochester now. And that was weird. She was sitting in front of us, and now she works at Jiva.
Yeah.
And
It felt a little rehearsed, a little
yeah,
planned.
yeah, it was funny. But she was like, I heard that Jiva has a ghost. I
Yep.
heard it has a ghost. And we were like,
Mitch, one of our guests, I think
yeah,
episode 6 it was or something like that, talked about Jiva a little bit with us. It was something that we talked about bringing him back, and I think it's about due time that we do.
yeah, we should. We should.
So,
But yeah,
um,
Jiva, I mean, like theaters in general hold a
yeah,
lot of energy.
yeah,
And so it makes sense that there's going to be stuff there, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah.
people leave
So,
their energy there. They put a lot into the plays. They put a lot into, watching as well.
yeah.
Like
So this
the
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just like if like you said, if you think about all the different, performances that go on, all, the heightened emotions, even the play that we just saw, like it builds up all that energy, has got to
Mhm.
go and do something, right? So,
Right.
but this was based on a couple different accounts from the Drury Lane theater ghost, who is known as the Man in Gray, and typically seen in the upper balcony and dressed in like old period clothing, and so been seen by audience members and actors and actresses alike. So, and I believe it's close to the West End, so like where the Women in Black originated, which was part of why I was like, I'll grab this story.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
It's funny you're talking about Drury Lane and
Yes.
a few, what was it over the
The Muffin
summer?
Man.
The Muffin Man. Do you know the
The
Muffin
Muffin
Man who
Man.
lives on Drury Lane?
Yeah.
But it was about
Yes, I know the
Jack the
Muffin
Ripper,
Man. Mm.
and that's the Muffin Man. Like,
Did you tell me that? Because I felt like we've talked about that.
I don't know. Did we talk about that or did
I
I
don't
just
know.
learn that?
You may. I believe
But
that it may not have been on even on the show, but I feel like you
no.
talked about that with me.
Did I? Maybe I did. But yeah,
Yes.
I had recently learned it over, I feel like it was over the summer. And I was like, wow, I did not know that the Muffin Man, a kid's nursery rhyme, like
Yeah.
is or song is about a murderer. So
A
many
lot of nursery rhymes
things
are
about like dark,
about
dark things. Yeah.
dark things like
Yeah.
ashes, ashes, ashes. We all fall
Ring
down.
around the
Isn't
rosy.
Yeah? Isn't
Yeah.
that about like the plague
The
or
plague. Yeah.
yeah,
Something like that. It was, yeah, they put posies in their pockets to keep the stink away of the death.
yeah,
It was sad.
yeah.
Yeah, we all fall down means we all die. But yeah, I guess like to make it not as scary for children at the time, I suppose making nursery rhymes made things easier, better. Um, yeah. But um that was a good story, Nick. Thank you.
Thank
Do you
you.
want to share your other short story or do you want me to throw in my long story?
Why don't we do your long story, and then
Okay.
if people still are with us, they can hear my other short tale.
Okay. You're gonna be real scared.
I
So this is
let me turn the light off.
so
There.
I found this on No Sleep on Reddit. Let me make sure that I get the
I love no
person's
sleep.
thing. Um, so this story is by Gamal Frank. I hope I'm saying that right. Or
Sorry. Sorry, Gamal.
Gamma L Frank?
Ga
Gamal Frank. Okay.
Gamma Magnon
And it's
along.
yeah, it's under No Sleep on Reddit. And okay, it's gonna take a little bit. Buckle in.
I don't have
I
buckles, but I will hold myself
darn it.
in the chair.
My father had one rule. We were forbidden from acknowledging my mother. I broke it, and now I understand why. I need to start from the beginning. I need to try and make sense of it for my own sake. For as long as I can remember, my life has been governed by one unbreakable rule. It was never spoken aloud, never written down, never explained. It was a rule learned through punishing silence, through the sharp, warning glances of my father, through a pressure in the atmosphere so thick you could feel it on your skin. The rule was simple. We do not acknowledge her. She was my mother. She lived in the house with us. She was as solid and as real as the dining table we sat at every night, or the stairs I climbed to the bedroom. But to my father, and by extension to me, she was a ghost we'd agreed not to see. Every morning, she would be in the kitchen when I came down for breakfast. She'd be at the stove, a floral apron tied around her waist, and she would turn and smile at me. It was always a sad smile, one that never quite reached her eyes. "Good morning, sweetheart," she would say, her voice soft like rustling leaves. And every morning, I would look right through her, my gaze fixed on the coffee pot on the counter behind her. I'd grab a bowl from the cupboard, pour my own cereal, and sit at the table. My father would already be there, hidden behind his newspaper, a silent monolith. She would sigh, a tiny deflated sound, and place a third plate on the table between us, a plate of scrambled eggs and pancakes, always cooked perfectly, always destined to grow cold. We would eat our breakfast in silence. The only sounds, the scrape of spoons against ceramic and the rustle of my father's paper. The third plate sat there, a testament to our collective delusion, a steaming, fragrant accusation. She would sit in her chair, her hands clasped in her lap, watching us eat, a hopeful, desperate look on her face. Sometimes she would try to start a conversation. "It looks like it might rain today," she'd offer, her voice wavering slightly. "You should take an umbrella to school." My father would just turn a page, the crinkle of the newsprint sharp and dismissive in the quiet room. And I would take a noisy bite of my cereal, focusing on the crunch, on anything but the sound of her voice. After a while, she would just fall silent, the hope draining from her face, leaving behind that familiar, deep-seated sadness. Dinner was the same. She'd cook a full meal, something that always smelled incredible, filling the house with the scent of roasted chicken or baking bread. And she'd set 3 places at the table, complete with napkins and silverware. My father and I would sit, and she would serve us, placing food on our plates, her movements graceful and practiced. Then she would sit down, fill her own plate, and try to engage us. "How is your day at work?" she would ask my father. He would grunt, his attention fixed on cutting his meat into precise geometric shapes. "And school? Did you have a big test today?" she would ask me. I would mumble something non-committal, my eyes glued to my plate, shoveling food into my mouth to avoid having to speak. The charade was suffocating. It was a constant, exhausting performance. Every single day was a rehearsal and a live show of pretending this woman, my own mother, did not exist. I grew up in a house with 3 people, but I was raised in a world that only acknowledged 2. For years, I just accepted it. Kids accept the most bizarre circumstances as normal because it's all they've ever known. The sun rises, the sky is blue, and we don't talk to mom. It was just a fact of life. I learned to tune her out, to blur her form at the edges of my vision. She became a piece of the background, like a painting on the wall that you no longer notice. But as I got older, moving into my late teens and then into my early 20s, the acceptance began to curdle into something else. First, it was confusion, then a deep, gnawing guilt. I started to really look at her. I saw the fine lines of sorrow etched into her eyes. I saw the way that her shoulders slumped when we ignored her. The way she would sometimes touch the back of my father's chair as she passed. A longing for contact that was never returned. I saw a woman who was profoundly, devastatingly lonely, trapped in her own home. My perception of my father shifted too. The silent, stoic man I had once viewed as a protector started to look like a tyrant. His rule was strange, cruel. It was calculated, daily act of emotional violence. What had she done to deserve this? Had she had an affair? Had she done something unforgivable that I was too young to remember? Whatever it was, this punishment seemed monstrously out of proportion. It was cold, quiet form of torture, and he had made me his accomplice. The resentment built slowly, a pressure behind my ribs. I started having trouble sleeping. I'd lie in bed and hear the faint sounds of her weeping from their bedroom. It was a soft, muffled sound. The kind of crying you do when you're trying not to wake anyone, and it broke my heart. How could my father lie beside her every night, hear that, and do nothing? What kind of man was he? I began to see his actions as a grotesque form of misogyny, an exertion of absolute control. He had erased her. He had stripped her of her voice, her presence, her very existence within the family she had built. And I had helped him. Every silent breakfast, every ignored question, I was tightening the screws. The breaking point came last Tuesday. It was a miserable, rainy day, the kind that makes the whole world feel gray and damp. I was in the living room, trying to read, but the words just swam on the page. She came in and stood by the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. She wasn't trying to talk to me. She was just standing there looking out at the world that she was part of but couldn't seem to touch. She started humming, a simple, sad lullaby. It was a melody that felt vaguely familiar, like a half-remembered dream. I felt a lump form in my throat. I watched her reflection in the dark window pane, a translucent figure against the storm-tossed trees outside. Her shoulders were shaking almost imperceptibly. She was crying again, silently. Something inside me snapped. Years of pent-up guilt and quiet rebellion, of love for this woman I wasn't allowed to know. All of it came rushing to the surface. It was wrong. This whole thing, this whole life, was fundamentally, grotesquely wrong, and I couldn't be part of it anymore. I waited. I waited until I heard my father's car pull out of the driveway for his weekly trip to the hardware store. It was a ritual for him, every Tuesday evening, a couple hours to himself. The house fell into a new kind of silence, one that wasn't enforced, but was simply empty. Except it wasn't empty. She was still there. I found her in the kitchen, washing dinner dishes, her back to me. Her heart was hammering against my ribs so hard, I felt like she must be able to hear it. My mouth was dry. It felt like I was about to break the law of physics, like the universe itself might fracture if I spoke. I took a deep breath. Mom? The word felt alien in my mouth, heavy and clumsy. She froze. Her hands submerged in the soapy water went completely still. The silence that followed was more profound than any I had ever experienced in that house. It stretched for what felt like an eternity. Slowly, she turned around. Her face was a mask of disbelief. Her eyes, wide and glistening with tears, were locked on mine. She looked at me as if she were seeing a miracle. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She just stared, her expression shifting from shock to a dawning, radiant joy that was so pure it was painful to watch. You can see me?" she whispered. Her voice choked with emotion. A single tear traced a path down her cheek. "Oh, my sweet boy, you can finally see me." Her words confused me. They landed strangely, not quite fitting the situation. I took a step closer. "What are you talking about?" I said, my voice unsteady. "I've always seen you. I see you every day." Her brow furrowed in confusion, but the smile didn't leave her face. It was as if she couldn't bear to let it go. "But you never looked at me. You never spoke." "Dad," I said, the word tasting like poison. "It was him. He told me not to. It was his rule. I was a kid. I was scared. I didn't know what to do, but I'm not a kid anymore. It's wrong. What he's doing to you is wrong." An understanding washed over her face, followed by a shadow of that old sadness. She reached out and took my hand. Her skin was cold, surprisingly so, like marble that had been left in a cellar. But her grip was firm, real. "Your father," she began, her voice trailing off. She shook her head. "He's had a hard time. He does what he thinks is best, but it's okay now. It's okay. This can be our secret, can it? Just between us?" I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. The relief that flooded me was immense, like I'd been holding my breath my entire life and finally was allowed to exhale. We stood there for a long time, just holding hands in the quiet kitchen. She told me how much she loved me, how she had watched me grow up, proud of the man I was becoming. She asked me about school, about my friends, about my life. It was a torrent of questions, years of unspoken love and curiosity pouring out of her. We talked until we heard the sound of my father's car on the gravel driveway, and panic seized us. She squeezed my hand one last time, a conspiratorial smile on her face. "Our secret," she whispered, and then she turned back to the sink, resuming her washing as if nothing had happened. I bolted from the kitchen, my heart racing, and made it to my room just as the front door opened. The rest of the evening passed in the usual suffocating silence, but this time it felt different. It was charged with my secret. When she looked at me across the dinner table, there was new light in her eyes, a shared knowledge. It was the first time in my life that I felt like I had an ally in that house. We continued our secret conversations for the next few days. Whenever my father was out, we would talk. I learned about her favorite books, the music she loved, the places she dreamed of traveling. She was vibrant, intelligent, and funny. She was a whole person, a person my father had tried to bury. And with every word we shared, I felt like I was helping her claw her way out of the grave he'd dug for her. My anger grew. and grew with every passing day. He was a monster, a quiet, methodical monster who had stolen my mother from me. I started to think about what to do. Should I confront him? Should I take her and leave? I felt a fierce, protective instinct I'd never known before. I would not let him hurt her anymore. Then came yesterday morning. I woke up and the house was silent. Too silent. There was no smell of coffee brewing, no sound of my father's radio murmuring the morning news in the kitchen. I lay in bed for a while waiting, but the silence stretched, becoming unnatural, unnerving. I finally got up and went downstairs. The kitchen was empty. The coffee pot was cold. The newspaper was still on the front porch. A prickle of unease ran down my spine. I checked the whole floor. No one. I went upstairs and knocked on the bedroom door. No answer. I pushed it open. The room was empty. The bed was neatly made. My father's side of the closet was open, his clothes hanging in their usual meticulous rows. Her side was the same. Nothing seemed out of place, yet the absence of them was a screaming void. Panic set in. I checked the garage. His car was gone. My first thought was that he'd left for work early, but he never did that without telling me. And where was she? Did he take her somewhere? The thought sent a jolt of fear through me. Had he found about our secret? I spent the whole day in a state of escalating anxiety. I called my father's cell phone a dozen times. It went straight to voicemail every time. I called his office. His secretary said he hadn't shown up, which never happened before. I didn't know who to call about her. She didn't have a cell phone. She didn't have any friends that I knew of. Her entire world was contained within the walls of our house. By evening, I was frantic. I paced the empty rooms, the silence of the house pressing in on me. Had he hurt her? Had he taken her away to punish me? The darkest possibilities began to spiral in my mind. I had to do something. I had to find a clue, anything that could tell me where they went. My search led me back to their bedroom. It felt like a violation to be in there, to go through their things, but I was desperate. I looked through the drawers, under the bed, in the closet, nothing. It was just a room, unnaturally tidy and impersonal. Then I saw it. On the floor of my father's closet, tucked behind a row of shoes, was a small wooden chest I'd never seen before. It was unlocked. My hands trembled as I lifted the lid. Inside were journals, a stack of them, all identical black, leather-bound notebooks, the kind my father used for work. I pulled one out on the top. His neat, precise handwriting filled the page. The first entry was dated over 15 years ago. I sat on the edge of their bed. October 12th. It's been a year since the accident. The house feels so empty, a hollowed-out shell. I look at my son and I see her eyes, and the pain is so fresh it's like it happened yesterday. He's only 3, too young to understand. He just asks for Mama. How do I explain to a 3-year-old that she's never coming back? The police report called it a freak accident, a downed power line in the storm, wrong place, wrong time. It doesn't feel like a freak accident. It feels like theft. The world stole her from us. My blood ran cold. I read the entry again, and then a third time. An accident? She died? No, it was impossible. I had just spoken to her yesterday. I'd held her hand. It was a mistake, a different journal, something. But it was his handwriting, his room. I kept reading, and a sense of dread coiling in my stomach. May 3rd, 2 years later. He did it again today. He was playing in the living room with his blocks, and he just stopped and pointed toward the kitchen. He said, Mama is making cookies. I went in, of course. The kitchen was empty. I told him Mama was in heaven, like we've practiced. He just shook his head. No, she's right there, he said, and he described her. He described the yellow dress she was buried in. I felt a coldness spread through me that had nothing to do with the temperature in the room. He's 5. His imagination is running wild, that's all. That's all it is. May 28th. It's not his imagination. He talks to her every day now. I've started seeing glimpses. A flicker of movement in the corner of my eye when he says she's walking past. A faint scent of her perfume in the room she supposedly just left. This morning, I was in the hall and he was in his room chattering away. I asked who he was talking to. Mama, he said. She's singing a song. And then I finally heard it, faintly through the door, a lullaby. The one she used to sing to him. I almost threw up. June 15th. I confronted it today. My son was sitting on the sofa talking to the empty space next to him. I stood in the doorway and I said her name. I asked her what she wanted. My son looked at me, his eyes wide with fear, and the air in the room grew heavy, cold. A pressure built against my eardrums. I felt a sense of malevolence, pure hatred directed at me. It looked like her, it sounded like her, but when I forced myself to look at the spot my son was staring at, I saw it, just for a second. The shape of her was there, but the eyes were black pits, empty and ancient and wrong. This thing is not my wife. My wife is gone. This is something else, a parasite wearing her memory. My breath hitched in my chest. I felt a wave of nausea. This is insane. He was insane. He was grieving. He'd gone mad. That had to be it. I gripped the journal tighter, my knuckles white. July 1st. I've tried everything. Priests, mediums, paranormal investigators. They either think I'm crazy or they leave the house pale and shaken, telling me that they can't help me. One of them told me it's a mimic, a shade. He's said that it's drawn to grief, to my son's energy, and it seems it will never leave us. Even if we left this place, it will just follow. He said the worst thing we can do is give it what it wants, acknowledgement. Attention is sustenance. Recognition is power. If we feed it, it will grow stronger. It will latch onto him. It will consume him. So I have a plan. It's a terrible, cruel plan. It will make my son hate me. It will make me a monster in his eyes, but it's the only way I can think to protect him. We have to starve it. We have to pretend it isn't there. We have to cut off its food supply. We will not look at it. We will not speak to it. We will not acknowledge its existence. We will live in a house with a ghost and pretend we are alone. May God forgive me for what I'm about to do to my own child. The journal fell from my hand, landing with a soft thud on the carpet. The room was spinning. Every memory of my childhood, every silent dinner, every sharp glance from my father, it all rearranged itself in my mind into this new terrifying picture. I scrambled for the last journal, the one from this year. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely turn pages, but I found the entry from last week, Tuesday. He spoke to it tonight. I knew it was coming. I've seen the way he's been looking at it lately, the guilt in his eyes. He thinks I'm the villain. I suppose I am. I would rather he hate me and be safe than love me and be lost, but now he's broken the rule. He's opened the door. When I came home, the air in the house was different, thicker, charged, and it looked stronger, more solid. The sadness in its eyes had been replaced with something else, triumph. I have to end this. The old man, the one who called it a mimic, he gave me the final option, a last resort. He said if it ever got a true foothold, if it ever fed enough to become fully anchored here, there was a ritual, a way to bind it, but it requires a sacrifice, a trade, an anchor from an anchor. He told me it would probably kill me. But what life have I been living anyway? A jailer in my own home, hated by my own son. If this is the price to set him free, I'll pay it. He's talking to it again. I can hear them whispering in the kitchen. I love you, my son. I hope one day you'll understand, and I hope you'll forgive me. That was his last entry. So his disappearance, the car being gone, he went to perform the ritual, to sacrifice himself, to save me from the thing he said took my mother's form. My blood turned to ice water. I thought of her hand in mine, how cold her skin was. I thought of her words, "You can finally see me," as if my sight was something to be earned. I thought of her triumphant eyes across the dinner table, and then I heard it. A soft, sweet sound from the bottom of the stairs. Humming. That strange little tune she was humming by the window. A floorboard creaked in the hall downstairs, then another. I scrambled off the bed, my body acting on pure instinct, and threw the lock on the bedroom door. The click sounded deafeningly in the loud silence. I backed away from the door, my heart trying to beat its way out of my chest. My eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape, but there wasn't one. The window was 2 stories up. Her footsteps were on the stairs now, slow, deliberate. Not the light, almost soundless way she used to move. These steps had weight. They had substance. She was stronger now. I had made her stronger. "Sweetheart?" Her voice. It was my mother's voice, but it was different. It was coated in a thick, cloying sweetness that made my skin crawl. "Are you there?" I was so worried. I woke up and the house was empty. I pressed myself against the far wall. my hand over my mouth to stifle my own ragged breath. I talked to your father, she called through the door. The sound was so clear. It was like she was standing right next to me. He called. He's so sorry, honey, for everything. He explained it all. He knows he was wrong to keep us apart. My mind screamed, liar, liar, he's gone. You know he's gone. He said he just needs a few days to clear his head, the sweet voice continued. But he gave us his blessing, and he wants us to finally have time together, just you and me. Isn't that wonderful? Silence. I held my breath, praying she would think I wasn't here, that she would just go away. I know you're in there, honey. I can feel you. Come on, open the door. I'm going to make you some pancakes, just like I used to. She never used to make me pancakes. Please, son, don't shut me out again. Not after you finally let me in. It's all going to be okay now. I'm here. I'll take care of you. We'll be a proper family. The words hung in the air, thick and venomous. A silence followed, stretching for a few agonizing heartbeats. Then a new sound, a soft metallic scrape. The doorknob began to jiggle, slowly at first, then with more force. Click, rattle, click. My breath caught in my throat. It was trying to get in. It was physically reaching. I backed away until my shoulders hit the cold wall, my eyes wide and fixed on the trembling brass knob. The wood around the lock groaned under the pressure. My phone was in my pocket, the weight of it sudden, desperate comfort. My hands were slick with sweat as I fumbled to pull it out. My thumb hovered over emergency call button. What would they say? What would I say? There's a woman in my house who looks and sounds like my mom, but my dad's journals say she died 15 years ago, and this thing is a mimic that feeds on attention. They would send an ambulance with a straitjacket, not a squad car with armed forces. The rattling stopped. For a moment, there was nothing, a profound, terrifying quiet. And then it began. Scrape, scrape, over and over, a sound that was patient and possessive, like long fingernails dragging slowly across the wood. That was it. I didn't care how crazy I sounded. I stabbed that call button. A calm voice answered, 911, what's your emergency? I cupped my hand over the phone speaker, my own voice choked, ragged whisper. There's an intruder in my house. I'm locked in my bedroom upstairs. Can you describe them, sir? The dispatcher asked. The scratching continued, a counterpoint to her professional calm. I can't. I haven't seen them. I just hear them. They're right outside my door. Please, you have to hurry. There was a fractional pause on the other end. A unit is on its way, sir. Can you stay on the line with me? No, I whispered, my eyes locked on the door. I can't make any noise. I ended the call before she could protest. The scratching stopped the instant the call disconnected, as if it heard, as if it knew. The silence that rushed back in was somehow heavier, more menacing than before. It's waiting. It knows I've called for help. It knows its time might be limited. Or maybe it's just enjoying this. I'm trapped in this room. I've called the police, and I don't know if there's anything that they can do. I don't know what they'll find when they arrive. What if it's just gone when they get here? They'll find my dad's journals, they'll see the state I'm in, and they'll think I'm the one who's broken. But all I can do is wait for them. I'm writing this down, getting it all out as fast as I can on my phone. I need someone to know the truth. I need you to know what really happened in case they don't believe me. In case something bad happens to me before they get here.
That was a great story, Jess.
I told you it was super long.
No, it was great.
You liked it?
Yeah, no, it was really good. And I'm like writing notes to myself as we're going through it. I'm like,
good.
Yeah. One of the things that happened, which I thought was funny, was I had a lump in my throat, and I was just going to clear it when you said like he had a lump in his throat, and I'm like at that time. So yeah, that was awesome. Had a couple little twists and turns I loved, and
yeah.
I at first honestly thought that she, was a ghost, but I did not think she was like a mimic, and then I
Isn't that creepy? Yeah,
Yeah.
same. I thought that too. I was like, oh, because it's a ghost. But
Right.
no, it gets worse. It's way worse.
And for a little while, I thought that maybe it was the boy that was a ghost, and that they were, talking, but like it didn't make as much sense. And then I'm like, oh wait, she's definitely dead. But I did not think it was like a mimic or whatever. And then I started thinking about how do you get rid of them? like Dybbuk boxes and all that other stuff. So, but very, very good story.
Yeah, thank you. I found it. Found it
Yeah,
myself.
found it
Yeah,
myself.
this person was a really good writer. There's like
Yeah,
a few loopholes in it, but I
yeah,
really liked it. Like there were a few things of like I would, he would grunt at it and I would like say something
yeah. That's
non-committal. So
acknowledging
like
it. Yeah,
yeah. But like yeah, it was a cool story. I really liked it. It can be it was definitely one of my favorites that I've read so far where I was like, ooh, that was spooky.
yeah. There's a couple on No Sleep, and that I've gotten a couple from them too, from that particular thread from Reddit. So,
Yeah.
but cool.
Well,
Do you got time for one more?
I sure do.
All right. So I'm kind of going back to like the sort of the theme. It's not theater this time though. All right. So we're sticking with colors. So this is called the Brown Lady of Raymond Hall. I didn't go to Raymond Hall expecting anything unusual. It was just a simple invitation, a stay at one of England's old country houses, the kind of place that doesn't feel lived in so much as it just feels remembered. The house had a weight on it. Nothing threatening, just watchful. Portraits lined the walls, and their eyes seemed to follow you as you passed. The air carried the smell of old wood polish and something faintly cold beneath it all. The evening seemed to end quickly and very quietly. There was a dinner, short conversation, and then doors closing one by one as the house settled for the night. I stayed up later than the others, reading in a sitting room near the main staircase. The fire had burned low, throwing long, shifting shadows across the walls. Close to midnight, I became aware of the temperature changing. Not a sharp chill, just enough to make my notice my hands had gone cold. I remember thinking the fire must be dying. And that's when I saw movement at the top of the stairs. First, I assumed it was just a shadow. Old houses are full of them, but then the shape resolved itself. A woman stood there. She was tall and slender, dressed in a heavy gown, the color of old mourning, brown, not black. The fabric looked thick, layered, and entirely out of place. Her face wasn't hidden, but I couldn't quite focus on it. Every time I tried, my eyes seemed to slide away, as though the details weren't meant to be seen. I thought she just must be another guest, a little lost and disoriented with the unfamiliar halls. I stood up and spoke to her, offering help. She didn't respond. She began descending the staircase, slowly, deliberately, one step at a time. But there was no sound, no footfall, no rustling of fabric. A sense of unease crept in, not panic or fear, but the growing certainty that something just wasn't right. As she moved downward, the air grew cooler, cold enough that my breath fogged faintly in front of me. I called out again, louder this time. She never looked at me. When she reached the bottom of the staircase, she didn't step onto the floor. She didn't vanish all at once. She just thinned, like smoke realizing it doesn't belong in the room, and then she was gone. I remained there longer than could account for, long enough to know the fire beside me had burnt down to embers, and long enough that the house seemed to settle around the absence that she left behind. Eventually, I had told what I had seen. They didn't ask me to describe her face. They didn't ask how long she was there. They asked one question: was she on the staircase? When I said yes, the conversation ended. That next night, I went to my room and I laid listening to the sounds of the house. Wood shifting, distant echoes, the quiet breathing of a place that never seemed to truly sleep. Something before morning, I heard footsteps on the stairs, slow, even, descending. I did not open my door. I stayed there until the house was quiet again. The next morning, as I prepared to leave, the front desk attendant asked how well I slept. I said I didn't sleep there very well, kept hearing footsteps on the stairs. He frowned a little and said, "Strange. There was no other guest here last night, and I was at that desk the whole time." So, another one of those.
Ew.
Yeah.
It's creepy. Um, that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be freaked out if I was staying at one of those little like hotels and you just
Mhm.
hear like, you always hear those like, oh, we were at a bed and breakfast, but they were
Yeah.
like, oh, well, the front desk goes home at night and you're gonna be the only ones
Yep.
here. And they're like, great. And then And it's always haunted. And they're like, yeah, it was just the ghost. Don't worry about it. Like,
Mhm. Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
little worried.
I told my story at the live show, and that this story reminds me so much of like the house that I worked in and stayed overnight, and the phone rang as I was
Yeah.
going by,
So
and like
creepy.
you do hear those steps, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I thought that that would be a nice. I stayed with the color theme. The woman in
Yes, the one
black,
with black,
men
the
in
one in
gray,
brown.
woman in
Yeah.
brown. We'll get some more
Yeah.
colors in soon.
Mine was just about evil
Yeah,
ghosts.
yours was a great one. I'm glad that we like did a short story and then a long story and then a short story. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Well, listeners, thank you so much for joining us again. And I guess this is technically season three.
mhm,
So for joining us for our third season, which is
yeah,
super exciting. Um, and when you're listening to this, I will get this out before The Lady in Black leaves Jiva. Go see it. It's so good.
yeah,
Again, it ends on February 8th. So make sure you see it before that. I think there's plenty of times to go see it.
yeah.
I believe they have weekdays, if you can't do a weekend. But um, I guess it's that time, right, Nick?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay. So what's like a nice old-timey drink?
an old fashioned.
Yeah, sure, why not? Really funny. Whether it is an old-fashioned or ghosts, keep your spirits up.